The Philadelphia Eagles must draft for need in the 2026 NFL Draft.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, and thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Louis DiBiase. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's a bonus 10-minute edition of the show as we do every single day, Monday through Friday, on our Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. On today's bonus show, I wanted to talk about some offseason rules that I feel like we all forget to follow year in and year out. I feel like teams forget about how the offseason should work, how it actually goes when it comes to building a championship contender, both short-term and long-term. The NFL season is such a beast, when training camp starts up. So from July all the way up until February, we just get lost in the chaos. And I think we almost have to retrain ourselves every single year about what you should do in free agency, what you should do in the NFL draft, what you should do when it comes to the trade market, when it comes to roster building as an entire whole. But one thing that general managers and a lot of NFL analysts will always tell you is that teams should draft best player available. And I could not disagree with that more. Number one, it's not correct. They're lying to you. 90% of teams draft for need, whether it's short-term needs or long-term needs. They're all lying to your face. They all say that you take the best player that's on the board, but to think of it in that kind of black and white perspective is completely misguided. And number two, I think drafting best player available, having that kind of tunnel vision, no matter what, we stick to our board. I also just think that is an incorrect draft strategy. Think about it. Yes, let's say you have an edge rusher as your number one guy, and you need a cornerback really bad, more than an edge rusher, but your next cornerback is 20th on your board. Let's say you're picking at 23rd overall, right? Like the Philadelphia Eagles are, and you've got a bunch of players at different positions that are worth that pick. But an area of need that you really have to address, like corner, there's not a guy on your board until your second pick, 54th overall. Obviously, you do not reach like that, or you end up getting the Danny Watkins of the world. You end up getting the Marcus Smith kind of pick, or Jalen Reagor. So yes, you have to be controlling with everything and responsible when it comes to not forcing a pick, not forcing a need. But I think the opposite is just as irresponsible. Imagine, the Eagles, let's stick with cornerback, for instance. Imagine you have two long-term pillars at the cornerback position, like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, that are young, that are on rookie contracts, that eventually you're going to want to give mega second extensions that are north of $30+ million a year. Now, let's say a cornerback is number one on your board. Tell me why taking the best player available in that instance, which is a corner, tell me why taking that black and white approach makes sense when you know that even if that corner pans out, are you going to hand out 3 mega extensions to cornerbacks? No. So I think that's crazy. I think all teams, when they take a player at a certain position, they do it with some sort of short-term or long-term need in mind. So for me, it's if there's a giant gap, obviously you don't reach for a need. But if it's a really close, let's say there's other things that factor in, positional value, like a tackle. Let's say a right tackle prospect to replace Lane Johnson is 2 spots below a tight end. Both are kind of needs. You have a tight end that's the best player available, but tackle is a bigger need right now. It's a more valuable position. Depth of class matters too. What if I can get it's a deep tight end class, but it's a thin right tackle group. Maybe I have a right tackle 5 spots lower than that tight end, but I can get the combination of this right tackle and a tight end in round 2 is a better combo than taking this tight end and a right tackle on day 2. You see what I mean? So to take that kind of black and white approach, no matter what, you draft BPA. every single year the NFL shows you that teams don't operate that way and they shouldn't. And yet every single year I hear general managers, including Howie Roseman, I hear NFL draft analysts like Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network and all these national guys go on TV, these talking heads, and say drafting for need is stupid. But I think that's ridiculous. Imagine going to a grocery store, and I make this analogy all the time. Does it apply fully? No, but I think it has some sense to it when it comes to some logic when it comes to the NFL draft. Imagine you go to the store at Wegmans, right? That's a local grocery store. Whatever. For you, it's Wawa, whatever kind of grocery store you go to. Let's say at home you really need eggs, you need chicken, you need soup, you need lunch stuff for the kids. And you go to the store and say, well, the best deals are ice cream, Eggo waffles, and Doritos. I just go home. Guess what? The wife or the girlfriend is not going to love that when you say, well, this was the best player available. This was the best value available at the grocery store. It's like, yeah, but we really need this for the future. We really need this right now. The draft, to me, should be about addressing needs. I think it's more irresponsible to go into free agency to address needs, and you irresponsibly overspend on a player that likely is not going to be worth that value, is not going to completely fill that need. I think it makes a lot of sense to fill a need with a player that's inexpensive, that you have for 4 to 5 years of team control on a rookie contract. So that's, to me, one of my biggest pet peeves through the NFL offseason. And that's like my number one offseason rule is don't listen to people when they say you should draft for need no matter what. We'll get into a couple more offseason rules coming up next on this bonus edition of Locked On Eagles. But first, today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience an NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win it all or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch, and now it can send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And guys, today's show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which ones might be sleepers on the board. For me, my go-to is Fruity Rainbow. It gives me that nostalgic rainbow sherbet kind of vibe to it, but I like some of the classics as well. Cotton Candy is also a sleeper, by the way, but you got cherry, you've got berry, grape, strawberry, banana, and sour apple are really good. Hawaiian Breeze. There are so many options, and it gives you the energy you need to get throughout each and every day to get through the grind. I used to work overnights at a radio station, and 5 Hour Energy boost shots saved my life. And they have 0 sugar as well. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon as well. All right, wrapping up this bonus Friday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast, going over some offseason rules. Number 1, don't listen to people, analysts, general managers, coaches, whoever, that tell you teams don't draft for need and that you shouldn't. You absolutely should. And I don't think it's black and white. I don't think you should always draft for need. I don't think you should always draft best player available. There are so many things that go into the equation: positional value, depth of the class, short and long-term needs. Now, look, if you're a team like the 2024-2025 Philadelphia Eagles, where both short-term and long-term, there's not a lot of holes, okay, in that kind of instance, you definitely take BPA, which last year they believed was Jahad Campbell, even though you had Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond, who could be 2 long-term staples of your linebacker core. In that case, like, there really wasn't a spot to take a guy where there was an obvious starting job that was going to be available in the next couple years. So again, I just don't like the black and white approach to it. I think, yeah, there's a lot of instances like that last year's draft for the Eagles where you do go BPA, but the draft is so complicated. There's so many factors, so many variables that factor into it, and that just drives me absolutely nuts. Another rule to follow in the offseason, especially with it coming up next week, I head down to Indianapolis on Tuesday for the scouting combine. don't overreact to the scouting combine. Yes, if a guy runs a 4.3, if he runs a 4.25, if he breaks Xavier Worthy's 40-time record, that's awesome. That's exciting. That might make you go back and watch his tape and be very intrigued by the player. But to me, the combine a lot of the time has gotten guys overdrafted, picked a little bit too early, or the opposite as well. Sometimes it's really hurt good football players that don't test that well, and they fall to day 2, day 3 of the draft when, in actuality, they should have been a day 1 pick, and they ended up being a great player in the NFL, a great starter, a steal for a franchise. So for me, the combine is more about raising questions and confirming things that you already knew about a player. So if you see somebody run a really fast 40-yard dash and you're like, wow, that guy is actually faster than I anticipated, to me, that shouldn't now tell you, oh, I'm going to go draft John Ross with a first-round pick. It's like, okay, that's really impressive. Let me now go back to the tape and see if that speed translates to the field. Does he play as fast as he runs on the 40-yard dash? Because that is a completely different kind of speed, right? So I think, to me, it raises those kind of questions. Let's say a guy just has a bad day. He tweaks a muscle. He just woke up sore. That could slow down his 40 time. Let's say he just has a day where he's kind of foggy and he has a couple drops. To me, that's like, okay, a little bit concerning. That's eye-opening. But now let me go back to the tape. Does that show me that Chris Brazel out of Tennessee, let's say he drops a couple balls. Sorry to pinpoint you specifically, Brazel, but you're my guy. If he drops a couple passes at the combine, that makes you go back and say, does he have any concentration drops? Like, what about in traffic? To me, it should raise questions based on what you see, but then you should use the tape always to confirm things. And let's say, like, you thought you knew something about a player. The 40-yard dash can really help you, like, cement in stone. Okay, yeah, I knew I believed in this guy. Quinyon Mitchell, for instance, a couple years ago, tested out of the gym in Indianapolis, and that confirmed to me. It's like, yep, already thought he was the number 1 corner. That should be a top 10 pick. For some reason, the NFL didn't see it that way, and he still fell after that unbelievable both Senior Bowl and Combine during the pre-draft process. But for me, that's another rule. Like, don't use – that could be a rule for the Combine, but you can apply that to the Senior Bowl as well, and the pro days, like Zach Wilson, for instance. I mean, the guy was a 2nd overall pick in 2021 because of one really cool pass, cross-body pass he made at BYU at the pro day. And look, I fell for that too, but – you got to learn from that. And again, use these things as resources. Don't take any of them as scripture about what a player is or isn't. So that to me is another rule as well. And my final rule, do not overpay in free agency. These guys are all free agents for a reason. I mean, there's a lot of good value you can get in free agency. The Philadelphia Eagles, just 2 years ago, got Saquon Barkley, who was the number 1 reason that you won a Super Bowl in 2024, but that's the other rule. Don't overpay in free. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's bonus edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Until Monday, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.